welcome back to session 2 of the Middle East Education Forum Thought Leadership on Thought Leadership. Before we proceed into the content, I'm going to invite Melissa back in just to say a word about the translation and how to access this in the best way. Melissa.
Hello, welcome back. For the translations, on the on the right-hand side above the chat, if you click on the translations and select the language that you would like it translated into, it should be translated for you. There should be translations throughout the time. If you're having difficulty, just mute the presentation in the content panel, and then the translations will be louder. So it's important that you mute the speaker who's speaking in the other language in order for the translations to be louder and more audible. Okay? Thanks so much, David.
Thank you very much. And just one other point before we get going. Could I invite you to put your questions in the Q&A box, not in the chat box? We have people who are monitoring the Q&A, and they will be translating questions that are in Arabic into English so that we are able to view them all. And so we start our second session with an input from Robert Jenkins, Director of Education of UNICEF. Robert's title is Reimagining Education, Education Recovery and Transformation.
Hello, my name is Robert Jenkins, and I'm the Global Director of Education and Adolescent Development for UNICEF. I'm very pleased to have this few minutes to present Reimagine Education, and thank you very much for this opportunity. We all know the impact of COVID-19 on children has been profound. It includes in education. 1.6 billion learners were affected at the height of the pandemic. But as you can see on this slide, there's a number of different statistics that give a sense of the magnitude, that it gives a sense of the scale. It obviously was a global impact with global-wide implications, and now the importance of us to collectively respond to such a scale. The reopening and recovery process is very much ongoing. There are 3 key priorities with that process. Number 1, bringing all children back to school. We see some countries taking very proactive initiatives to understand which children are marginalized and are facing specific barriers to return to school and addressing those barriers. We strongly encourage us all to follow such an approach. Number 2, enable catch-up learning initiatives and accelerated learning. Recognizing that there was unequal access to remote learning while schools were closed, with over 460 million children not accessing remote learning during this very challenging time. Children are coming back to school at different levels of learning and with different impact of the disruption of COVID-19 on their learning. So what is absolutely critical is for school systems and for schools and for teachers to be prepared and supported to enable children to have to catch them where they are in their learning, determine where that is through formative assessment, and support catch-up learning initiatives. The most important, this third element, the most absolutely important part of the success of reopening and recovering education systems is the level of support and engagement with teachers. Absolutely critical for education systems at all levels, at the school level, but at the province and national level, to engage with and to sufficiently support teachers to have a successful reopening process. We currently have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform education systems. The vision is that we, as I mentioned earlier, proactively reach marginalized children and reverse the increasing disparities that are taking place. We enable learning to be self-paced and interest-based and follow the child's passion. We provide multiple learning pathways for children so that, again, we can meet their individual needs and bring learning and education to where children are rather than the other way around. And laser focus on enabling the development of skills. We recognize the gap currently of a typical graduate from a typical education system and the skills needed for that child and youth to enter the labor market or engage in communities. That's a growing gap, the skills they have and the skills that they need. So to ensure education systems enable the development of the full range of skills. That we recognize that children also pass through key milestones in their learning. At 5 years old, being school ready, at 10 years old, to being able to have sufficient levels of foundational literacy and numeracy, and at 18 to have the full range of skills to enable them to transition to adulthood. Engagement within school systems, engagement within schools, a partnership between parents and teachers is critical for a successful transformed education system. And the last is a comprehensive support. Successful with their learning that need their other very fundamental needs to be met. Their nutrition needs and sufficient nutritional support, psychosocial support and social emotional well-being, water and sanitation, a sense of protection at school and to and from school. This more comprehensive set of services, but comprehensive levels of support, absolutely critical if we are going to successfully transform education systems. There are enablers to transform an education system, and they're listed on this slide. One is we need to contextualize our content and ensure sufficient supplementation of global assets with IT-enabled learning. Formative assessments and data is critical to enable transformation. Again, I mentioned the level of teacher support, administrative support, and parent and community engagement. Partnerships with the private sector and with the civil society organizations is critically important. Sure, technology is appropriate. We're looking for IT-enabled learning platforms, but also the radio and the television, and pens and paper and notebooks provided to every child. And resources will obviously be of utmost importance if we are to transform education systems. So Reimagine Education is a very bold goal that all children and young people, estimated to be 3.5 billion by 2030, are able to access world-class digital learning solutions. We see this as the great equalizer. There are 5 components to Reimagine Education: world-class digital learning solutions, a full network of and suite of solutions that can be adopted and contextualized that are appropriate for each context. Connectivity, an initiative called GIGA, which is a very bold and ambitious initiative to connect all schools globally to the internet, to provide us a highway, if you like, of an asset to and from school, a flow of information, and bring tools and learning opportunities to children. Devices in the hands of every child, ensuring the data and content over networks are affordable, recognizing that it's often the cost is prohibitive for many, and engage with young people in reimagining education, recognizing what a catalytic role they can play. The global learning, digital learning toolkit is comprehensive, has a number of very useful and effective tools that can be tailored to each and every environment. Here are some categories, whether they focus on literacy and numeracy, or science and technology, or a full comprehensive learning management system, or specific sort of focused tools that are looking at a specific skill or a specific marginalized group of children. So the Learning Toolkit is very powerful, and indeed there's a tool for every child and every goal. The key is to match the tool with that aspiration and that objective. We've learned a lot in the last 18 months in rolling out digital tools for accelerated learning and transforming education systems. I keep mentioning the importance of contextualization and localizing content. Adapting e-learning platforms is absolutely central to a transformed education system, so that every child can reach and access the IT-enabled tool in an effective way. Catch-up learning, supporting teachers, parents, and caregivers, and partnerships, all critically important, and we've learned how important they are to transforming education systems. There's lots of examples in the digital rollout. Here are some from around the world. Again, many have adopted those lessons that I've shared earlier. You can see the breadth and the depth of the tools that are being rolled out, and the numbers and millions of children that are accessing them. Again, seizing this opportunity to transform education systems. Well, in total, overall, 301 million children have been supported to access digital and distance learning with UNICEF support during this very challenging time. Seems like a big number, and indeed it was an enormous amount of resources, technical and financial and others, to enable this. But unfortunately, we still have a long ways to go, hence the need for partnering with all of you to realize this vision of reimagining education. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I wish you all the best in your deliberations.
Well, thank you very much indeed. We are anticipating Dr. Bassem Nasser to join us and to respond to your questions on this. And Bassem, you are indeed here, just in the nick of time. Thank you very much indeed. While the questions come through from the audience, I mean, first of all, thank you very much, and thank you to UNICEF for joining this forum. What Robert set out there was a huge agenda. I wonder, would you be able to break it down just a little bit and help forum delegates appreciate where should they start with this agenda? What, in your experience, works in different countries?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think what Robert said is exactly it. It's quite a comprehensive agenda, and we saw that there's many components to make world-class, effective digital learning work. And so maybe I can recap those quickly for people to remember. So from our side, the most important one is to focus on what makes digital learning work from the learning side, and that is actually the content, the pedagogy, the assessment, what happens in the learning process. So it's very important to get those right, because at the end of the day, if that process is not right in terms of the content, the way the teachers are working, the way the formative assessment is working, nothing you do is actually going to work. The next thing is how you build the supports and the scaffolding around this whole process to really get it to scale. And we're looking at three different things. We're looking at actually, first of all, having the connectivity to allow you to reach so many students and so many young people and children. Number two, having the devices that are ready to be in the hands of these young people and children, as well as teachers and parents, to enable them to get this learning at scale. And the third one is actually really has to do with the cost of the connectivity. in terms of sometimes zero rating content and getting some content for free. And we do have also quite a unique agenda at UNICEF, in which we believe in the power of young people actually to engage and actually support this agenda. Where do you start actually is a very difficult question, because it really depends at where the country is. But I think where we actually, from the education perspective, from the education section at UNICEF, say, you need to start with actually the learning. What is your vision for the learning? Plan it out. Don't start just you can of course start with pilots, but you really have to have a comprehensive plan and vision for how you're going to roll these things out. And from our side, a key differentiator and a key element for all of us to keep mindful of is to focus on the equity from the beginning. So rather than digital learning becoming the great divider, let's make it the great equalizer. So basically really start looking at some of those elements of how you're going to reach the most marginalized children, how you're going to reach the children that are harder to reach with that. So many ways to start, but I think if we're also talking about policymakers, ministries of education have to actually take the leadership on this and work along with the other ministries, such as ministries of ICT, ministries of finance, to make it. But the vision has to come from the ministries of education. So I hope that answers you.
It does indeed, and that's very clear. And do you have examples from particular countries about how you think this is being implemented well, that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, I think Rob in his presentation talked about a few of the examples. For example, let me tell you a little bit about some of the inclusion categories. So, for example, in Peru, UNICEF is supporting the Ministry of Education to provide inclusive distance learning options, including resources on the ministry's platform for children with disabilities. It's also distributing tablets with relevant content for indigenous and rural students to promote equitable learning. We have rolled out our Learning Passport online platform, which is a partnership with Microsoft in over 10 countries, including, for example, in Kosovo, where we have made it actually available for all the students. In Jordan, which is close to many of your participants, we have rolled out this solution with governments called Learning Bridges, which actually engages both teachers, students, and learners in catch-up programming while they were at home. A lot of interesting examples in Vietnam were focused on STEM education for girls through digital learning. So lots of interesting examples, and I think the most important thing is we're realizing that this is becoming the new normal. So whilst digital learning was a response for many countries to COVID, it has now become the new way of working.
We have a question from Dr. Amna from Iraq. How can the same quality standards of education be achieved despite the different teaching methods and curricula within the Arab world?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the key question. And I think so maybe deconstructing that question, we believe in the role of the teacher in digital learning. So basically, what we need to focus on in this whole process, besides the content of digital learning, is the role of the teacher. So what does it take for a teacher to succeed in the digital learning process? Besides having, number one, they need to have, at the baseline, they need to have digital skills to be able to manipulate and handle the technology so that they're able to work it with the students. But at the end of the day, also, in terms of the pedagogical techniques and methodologies for digital learning are a little bit different. And so you can do many different things with students in terms of giving them some free time, coming back to them. The teacher becomes much more of a facilitator, and digital learning can actually enhance the student-centered approaches of students. There's no silver bullet. You really need to work with the teachers to really equip them. And we're seeing actually a lot of governments actually working on both these things, working on giving the teachers the digital skills that they need as a baseline to start interacting with the technology, but also the pedagogical know-how on how to do this.
And that, Bassem, points to a huge focus on the training of teachers, the way they are trained, looking at both new entrants coming into the profession so that they can be trained afresh on what education is going to look like in the next 10 years. And also those people who are in the profession at the moment, who trained in a pre-digital era, and giving them the confidence and the competence to reform what's happening. I mean, earlier on, it was said that one of the good things about COVID was that it actually forced us to do things that needed to be done more quickly than they might otherwise have been done. Now, I think nobody underestimates the scale of this task, but what are your thoughts? What's the wisdom from countries that you've looked at about how this might be done well, quickly, and reasonably economically, if that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, once again, there is no magic solution. I think where we have seen countries who have succeeded more are ones that have focus, where that vision is led by the Ministry of Education, where there is a central vision on how to do this. So this is sort of on the policy level, where this is really prioritized, focused, and looked at holistically from within a planning perspective in terms of the financing. So this is sort of the broad line. Now, in terms of how you equip the teachers, we've seen a number of different models. So at the core of it, as I said, you have to give them the digital skills. But one thing we're also seeing is the ability of countries to use young people themselves, who are more facile with the technology, to become peer educators and peer learners, supporting their teachers in actually this process. So I think this is, and I'm a product of the Arab education system, so I'm very well aware of how difficult this process is. But the reality is actually this can be done with the right focus and the vision, and keeping laser focused, and also realizing that the role of the teachers is important. So besides just training them, actually engaging them, involving them in developing this vision. So one thing, maybe just reflecting on this, one thing we found that ministries who have basically imposed this on the teachers were much less successful in ministries who engage the teachers in how you define this vision and how you implement it. So that's maybe one key takeaway for others to keep mindful of.
You started with pedagogy in the remarks that you make, and I think that's absolutely right. And you've just come back and illustrated that by reference to a move from everything coming from the teacher to children, pupils being involved in their own learning, sharing and doing that. Now, that, of course, is a huge change, and one that will be a challenge globally. I mean, what thoughts have you got about how that change might be speeded up?
I mean, I think to be honest, there's a couple of things, and I'm here sort of because this has been even before technology, I think this has been a key challenge for us. I think the technology is going to allow us to do a couple of things as we get new entrants into the teaching profession. It's going to allow us, if we are able to do this within pre-service training or in-service training from the beginning to new entrants, the new entrants to education will be people who are much more facile with the technology and who kind of learn through the technology. So I'm assuming this could be a facilitator for such a process. The other thing that I think technology can do for teachers, and this is quite an interesting thing, is we are seeing actually a big move in terms of technology being used to assist teachers in assessment, and technology to help teachers with other administrative tasks to free up teaching time in the classroom. So hopefully it's with these technologies that teachers can actually start being able to assess their students in a bit more, because in many of the places we see a big reason why the pedagogy is not there is sometimes because the teacher is having to manage a class of 40 or 50 people. So we're hoping that technology, first as an aid to the learning, but as an aid to the teacher in terms of managing their class and in terms of assessment, can free up this task. And I think we will see how this unfolds, but this is, I think, where a lot of people are getting excited.
Well, Bassem, can I thank you very much indeed, and can I, through you, thank UNICEF for joining us today. UNICEF historically has played a huge contribution in improving education right across the world, and now is its time again. So thank you for joining us, and every success to UNICEF.
It's my pleasure, and I wish you all a successful conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now we have a change to the program, only a change in the order of presentations, and that is that we are delighted to have with us His Excellency Dr. Khaled Abdul Ghaffar, Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research from Egypt. Your Excellency, we are delighted that you have managed to find time in your crowded schedule to join this event live, and we look forward very much to hearing what you have to share. Right. It seems that his screen was there, but not the minister himself. So let us go back to the issue is with. Right, let us go back to the program, and let's go now to Elsevier and to Awad Shadi, who is going to give the next presentation. Shadi, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. I will share my screen. Please let me know when you can see. Are you able to see my screen now?
We can see your screen.
Great, perfect. Thank you very much. My name is Shadi, and I am based in Amman, Jordan. I am from the smaller city of Erbil up north in the kingdom here, and I'm very honored to be here today, and thank you very much for the invitation to speak. I wanted to speak a little bit more today about research intelligence and more within the world of scientific research. I know we've been talking about education today, so it's a bit of a shift to the other part of higher education, which is the world of scientific research. And the concept of research intelligence or the concept of intelligence in general has been with us for quite a while and for many generations. Leaders at all levels, whether on the national level, the regional level, or even in our own homes, are faced with daily choices and decisions that impact our future. These decisions, from the most complex to the simplest of choices, are dependent on the information we have at hand in the moment that we make these decisions. How many times have we heard the words, "if only I knew," or if only I had known beforehand. Add in the uncertainty that global shifts like COVID-19 can cause, the need for valid and reliable intelligence then becomes magnified. And I want to share a little bit of a story, a personal story with me and my two daughters who are in grade 7 and grade 2. They're 12 years old and 7 years old. In April, after they had spent their scholastic year in online learning, I had to make a difficult decision to change schools. And the COVID-19 part was a new factor that I needed to enter into the educational equation for my daughters. What if we go back to online classes? Is their school prepared to deliver the mission in an effective way? Which schools have the best model? Which schools have an effective mechanism for delivery? Which schools have the best protocols in place for my children's health? Which schools are agile and able to pivot as the challenges arise? And how do I put a value on the answers to those questions? How does this value then compare to taking my children out of an environment they've known all their educational life and taking them away from the friendships that they've developed over the years to an entirely new environment? The picture wasn't so clear at that time. I then had to set out and collect data from different sources, bring that data home under one roof, organize that data in a way that could be arranged and visualized intelligently, to get a clearer picture and position myself more confidently to make that decision. And finally, add the context around those results that I could tell a story then that would help me make a decision that could ultimately impact my children for the rest of their lives. Having reliable, valid, and trusted intelligence represents the sort of insurance against risky decisions. Did I make the right decision in moving my children out of the new school? I don't know. Time will tell. But having that intelligence helped my wife and I to see the picture more clearly. Better intelligence helped us understand the story better, gain confidence in our decision-making process, basing that decision on evidence collected, trends seen, and trajectories better visualized. Having strong intelligence helps us make the right decisions more often than not. And the better your intelligence, the higher the confidence level in those decisions. This anecdote, this personal story, is just a simplified example of the decisions many of you have to make on a daily basis. In the world of scientific research, there's many more factors that impact the outcomes. The picture is much more complex, and with it, the decision-making process. And this leads us to the inescapable fact that intelligence is no longer nice to have, but it's rather a must-have. And making sure that what limited resources we have are wisely invested into the decisions that can help give us the best possible return on investment. I want to take us a bit on a journey a little bit right now, understanding on a very high level, the landscape of the world of scientific research, how data and effective leveraging of that data can support the decision-making process to minimize the risks and maximize the confidence in the choices we make. So when we look at the world of research, and after working with the thousands of partners that we have around the world, we've been able to identify 6 main pillars or challenges that face any research leader today, whether on an institutional level or on a national level. Whether it's this research strategy, building collaboration networks, identifying and finding and deciding on research funding, the researchers themselves conducting the research, managing that research cycle, and being able to measure the impact of the outcomes of that research and being able to showcase it to the world around, to the international community. But it's not just about what the challenges are, it's also who are part of that challenge, the stakeholders involved. And here we see we've got the researchers, the institutions, the funders and policymakers, industry on the corporate level, society as a whole, and the technology partners that are intertwined within these processes. And as you can see, it's a very complex web of information flow. So how do we manage that information flow? How can we be able to build and be able to see the picture clearer and be able to tell a story that helps us make better decisions? And that's where managing that information flow, organizing that information flow between the different stakeholders helps us to be able to see the picture clearer, be able to make stronger, more effective, less risky decisions that help us with a higher rate of return on investment. Being able to take the different data sets and the different resources that we have available at our fingertips, relate them to each other, and be able to tell the story in a more effective way. And it's beyond the information flow, we start looking at the systems. So as you can see, we're taking sort of a step-down approach from the vision down into the action plan. What are the different elements that play a role within this information flow? What are the data sets? What are the different components within this web of integrated systems and information that we need to build to put together to be able to tell that story in a way that helps us make the best decisions possible. And within each of these different integrated components, I can take a look at one of the specific ones here, for example, down at the bottom, supporting flexible publishing and dissemination. And as we know, in emerging markets, different institutions, and in this case, journals, let's say, have different maturity levels. Identifying what level they're on, identifying their goals, their needs, is becoming a paramount thing to be able to say what helps with which journal. You cannot make a blanket assumption that all the journals are on this level and they need to go up to this level. So being able to flexibly represent where the journals are today, for example, and where they would like to be, and the journeys and steps in between, identifying what the goals are at each step, identifying the needs that are met at each step, is a critical component of that small part of the larger integrated map that we've just seen earlier on. So again, it's taking the vision, being able to see it much more clear, being able to develop the story in a way that you can see where you are, where the players and stakeholders are, where they're headed, which path they're on, how long it'll take them to get there, and what their final destination will be. I know this was a very short presentation. I know you guys have been through a lot of presentations today and a lot of talks, so I just wanted to keep this as short as possible for you and just give you a very high level. But my email address is there, and please reach out to me anytime you would like, and I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions if you have any questions now. I'll stop sharing and come back to the screen.
Howard, thank you very much indeed for that. There are no questions showing on the screen at the moment. So let me just ask a question. I'm aware that virtually all universities know Elsevier, and not just universities, but members of staff as well. But other than write your email address, how might they best engage with you to get the most out of what you have just been sharing?
Oh, well, I mean, each institution, each government, each country is at a different level in their journey. So they start from different spots. And we work on multiple levels within each country, on the national level, on the institutional level, and on the researcher level. I don't think any researcher in the MENA region has gone through their career without at least attending a training or contacting one of our consultants or having a conversation about how we can help here, how we can help there. I think the message here is that we've been known as a publisher for decades, but now we're more of a partner and an information analytics entity that's trying to build these partnerships with the institutions, with the governments, with the researchers to help drive progress forward. And that's, I think, the main conclusion here that I would like to share is that let's talk, let's engage in a conversation to be able to understand where you are today, where you'd like to go tomorrow, and draw out that detailed map. How can we get there? Developing those milestones. You don't have to get to that. We saw that integrated map. That's a massive picture. That's a huge undertaking for even on the smallest institutional level, but it can be pieced out into different milestones and different phases that can be achievable and be able to get there. It's a long-term project, but it's definitely feasible for any institution within the Arab world.
Was it Nelson Mandela who started his book by saying the longest journey starts with the first step?
Indeed,
which is why I asked you that particular question. Another question: what does ultimate success look like? Because you've described a very comprehensive, very well thought through way forward. But in terms of universities, in terms of universities serving societies, what does success look like?
I mean, again, each university has a different definition of what their vision is, and finding success within that vision different. So a teaching university will be very different than a research-based university and what their success and what their outputs are. And we saw the challenges earlier. Different institutions will look at these challenges and say, that's my priority right now. That's what I need to focus on, whether it's strategy or funding or collaboration or impact. Each university is at a different level. So being able to extract that prioritization and be able to define, okay, I would like to achieve this, breaking that down into steps, milestones. The success, I think, isn't measured by your final destination. It's by how successfully you're able to traverse through that journey and being able to get the small wins. I mean, one of the things that one of my mentors always said is, when you feel down, you need to get a win somehow. And being able to phase that out into small wins, you can show the progress, even if they're small steps. As you mentioned earlier, it starts with one step. So being able to identify those steps and working towards realistic, measurable outcomes of those steps, I think that would be the success. And once you add one success over another, you start taking a look back in your rearview mirror, and you'll realize how far you've come from where you started your journey.
And of course, one of the unique things about universities relative to schools or colleges is that the teaching and the research are linked. They are dependent on each other, and without success in what you're doing and transferring that into the teaching, universities are not going to serve societies as well as they might do.
No, I agree. And I think one of the interesting things that I've learned over my time with Elsevier is that the younger generation, so your undergraduate students, are usually the ones that are going to have the most innovative ideas. They're going to be able to take what their professors and their faculty members have been able to transfer down in terms of knowledge. And as a final year student, I'm thinking, what am I going to do with my life? What's my career going to look like? What do I want to do? And they're taking that knowledge and translating it into new ideas and new innovations. I think that translation from the research and the academics and the faculty into the students, the stronger that bridge, the more innovation that you can start seeing on that younger generation moving and driving that economy forward within each of the countries that we have attending today.
I think there's a theme starting to emerge from this conference, even though we're only in session 2. And listening to UNICEF a little while ago, and the importance of children, pupils, being involved, being supportive for change and so on. And looking at universities, the importance of undergraduates being able to undertake research and so on. Does that mean Elsevier might need to engage in different ways, do you think?
We're always looking for new ways to engage. I don't think there's any specific methodology or method in terms of engaging that we've identified. This is uncharted territories a lot of times that we're going into. So we need to go into them with an open mind, with an agile mind, test and try and experiment. But you need to have that agility to be able to say, okay, I tried this, it didn't work, let's pivot and move on to try something else. And you will hit something that succeeds at some point or another. It's just like any business investment. You keep trying until you hit the one that makes it for you, and then you hold on to that one and you grow it and you let it develop into something much more than what it was at the beginning.
And I think that's a great note on which to finish this session. Your email is there. You are there in the expo, and I hope that colleagues joining this forum will go to it. And
thank you
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Wishing you success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have Ahmad Obadat, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Unihans. Unihans is a platform that offers users access to online courses. And Ahmed, we're very glad that you're able to be here this morning to tell us about it. Over to you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. So I hope that everyone can hear me really well. So first of all, my name is Ahmed Obaidat. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Can you hear me, David?
And we can hear you very clearly.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna start by presenting myself. So my name is Ahmed Obaidat. I'm the CEO and founder of Unihans. I have different background of knowledge and education. So I'm a nuclear engineer with an AI focus and data science focus with blockchain expert. So most likely this variety of knowledge just lead me to create the first decentralized e-learning platform. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen and presenting an introduction and summary about Unihans. So please just let me know if you can see my screen. So can you see my screen, David?
Can.
David, can you see my screen?
We can see your screen now.
Okay, thank you. So Unihans came from the university enhancement. So when we talk about education, we are talking about mainly schools and university. So most likely our vision was to reduce the gap of knowledge and to build a platform where could be the Uber of knowledge and reduce the gap between the knowledge seekers and the knowledge drivers. We all know that the gap of knowledge between the university outputs and the market requirements are increasing by time. And if we want to fix and to enhance the university curriculum, it's going to be really hard to be capable to be updated with a market requirement. So there should be a middleware where a platform can provide users in this knowledge. So most likely we are focusing in the Arabic and MENA region to enrich the Arabic content. So if we're going to talk about e-learning and MOOCs, massive open online courses, we can see a huge jump in the compound annual growth rate from 3.8 billion in 2018 to 20.8 billion in 2023. And this reached us for a 40.1 compound annual growth rate. And if we can see the jump of registered users in the most popular centralized MOOCs like edX, Coursera, and Future Learn, we can see like a 2 or 3x jump in the registration after the COVID-19 pandemic. So I want to know, and I want just to deliver this message. E-learning is not something really related to COVID-19. It's really important without COVID-19 and with COVID-19. And that's all related to the fourth industrial revolution, the fourth revolution of data. So data is increasing all around the world. And by the increasing of data, digital transformation is taking replacement in everything. So most likely the whole world is changing, career shifting, uh, world economic is changing. So most likely unemployment is increasing in the whole world. So most likely this is a gap of knowledge and skills. So if we're gonna talk about Unihans, we are a headquarter office in Jordan. So we are a Jordanian company, and we are focusing mainly in the North Africa and the Middle East. So we are the first decentralized e-learning social platform, a platform where users can communicate, learn, and teach through a free of charge course creation platform. It has delivers an e-learning social network where users, whether they are professional instructors or just students, have an open environment to communicate and create joint learning path. Our vision is to become the biggest content marketplace that provide users with knowledge in the Arab world. So to reach our vision, we have a crystal clear mission. It's enriching the Arabic online content through enriching the Arabic online content through onboarding more professional instructors from the market. So mainly we are facing a really big problem here. I mentioned it before. It's the peer-to-peer learning gap between the knowledge drivers and the knowledge seekers. So the knowledge seekers is all of us. And the knowledge drivers could be also all of us. All of us have knowledge, but we don't have the tools and the technology to deliver our knowledge in a structured way, which could be beneficial for everyone who is aiming and trying to gain knowledge in an easy way. So most likely what are facing in the Arabic world right now is lack of Arabic online content. Beside for the knowledge drivers, they don't have a platform to a self-paced e-learning platform where they can share their knowledge, and that increasing the gap of knowledge peer-to-peer learning gap. So what is the utopia of Unihas and what is Unihas is talking about? So most likely we are focusing to enrich the Arabic content and to translate the foreign content by our cooperation with Aluga company, which they are here right now with my friend Bernd from Germany. Besides enriching the Arabic online content, we are providing this platform where knowledge drivers can upload their online courses and publish their courses to the huge amount of community for the Arab people. And through these two features, we are bridging the gap between the knowledge seekers and the knowledge drivers by building an e-learning social network. So most likely it's all about decentralization. I mentioned before that we are decentralized. So what meaning of decentralization? So after we bridging the gap by enriching the Arabic online content from the end user themselves, we are aiming to go decentralized. So what make us different from the centralized MOOCs and the distributed MOOCs? So most likely we are aware about the big company in the whole world like edX, CDCT, and Coursera that provide knowledge for the whole world, and they are so big. I believe that Coursera is here with us today. So I'm gonna mention what is the difference between our business model and Coursera and edX business model. So most likely Coursera is a centralized learning platform where the distribution of knowledge should be from their own side and the instructor should upload the courses from their own side. UniHas is trying to go decentralized. We know everything in the whole world is go decentralization. Finance, education, commerce is going and they are going decentralized, which is this enhance the process of knowledge between peer-to-peer learning gap. If we are going to talk about LinkedIn and Facebook, it's a continuous learning process between the end users, and sharing knowledge is a continuous process all the time, but it's not unstructured. So we mix between both of them, and we try to use Udemy business model with some enhancement to go with a really high edtech platform that user can communicate in real time and can create joint learning path together. So most likely what makes Unihas features are unique is course creation. So anybody can create his online course and publish it with approval from Unihas. They have a social network where you can directly communicate between the instructor and the students. You can create joint learning paths between multi-instructors. So you can create a worldwide joint learning path from different countries in the whole world. You can translate your content to any language you want so that you can have the online course in different languages just in one click by using Aloga Tuber AI engine. So we are young, we are new, we are live for 8 months. We have 1,200 online courses, and until now we have 1,010K active users with 250 instructors from all the Arabic world, with 20 partnership global with the content providers from Italy, Germany, and Denmark, and from UK and USA. So most likely Unihas provide different feature in the business model. So we provide knowledge B2C individually. Besides, we provide the bundles of courses that have learning objectives related to a specific field and object. We sell them directly to the companies and university. Besides, we do have a full-time subscription for all courses with the cheap fees, like $35 per month. You can access all Unihas courses. So Unihas use AI. So according to my background in AI, I see that AI involvement in the education will enhance the education process a lot. So we have our recommendation engine. So we can understand, analyze the consumer behavior on Unihas, and we start recommending courses and learning path according to his interest and his strength. Beside the recommendation engine, we are building the virtual career guide. So for example, you are a new student and you want to do a career shifting or you want to study a new field. So Unihas, they can do assist you, give you some recommendation. They can lead you to the best course. What is the next course? What is your overall rank? What is the best course that suits you? What is the best career that suits you? Besides, we are using this with a multiple courses from Aluga, as I mentioned before. So Unihas was made for who? So according to suppliers, it's not only about professional instructors from the market who can share knowledge. Also academies, universities, e-learning website as a distributor, they can share knowledge through Unihas. Our consumers from B2C, freelancers, students, employees, who want to enhance their skills. All of us know it's time for skills and knowledge. The time of certification it's really hard to be capable to suit our market requirements. Right now, all what the markets care about your skills, your knowledge, your mindset, how fast you can learn, how could you self how is your self-learning process, what is your capability research. So most likely we are aiming to deliver the up-to-date knowledge in the market to the university students just to reduce the gap. I know if you know, like Jordan right now, they have 70% unemployment rate, which is so high. And one factor of this unemployment rate is the gap of knowledge. because the fresh graduate and the university student, Jordan University students, they are not up to date with the market requirements, other market technology, what is needed. We all know now IT are involved in so fields in the engineering, medicine, finance, business, economy. So this involvement, so everybody should be aware in the technology. Everybody should be aware in the development process, programming, techniques, how we could make the fresh graduate in the university aware of the skills and enhance their skills and upskill their skills by this knowledge. So that's why we build UniHands. And we are aiming not just to educate the developed countries, we are aiming to educate the countries who are facing crises like Yemen, Libya, Syria, and Iraq. So that's why we are providing up to 500 courses in the Arabic language for the native speakers to educate around 50K Arabic speakers, refugees around the whole world, just to increase the opportunity of employment for them, to educate them, to scale up with their skills. So we made a lot of partners and clients in the last 8 months. So we have a partnership with Lingoda, Entrepreneur in the state, Pharmacology University in the USA, AML Business in Egypt, and AML Alam Najah in Egypt, Aluga in Germany, Red Flag in the state, Roya Academy in Jordan, Scala in Italy, and Math Achievers in Jordan, and more. So most likely our team have varied experience and background. So myself, I'm the CEO and the CTO of the company. I have a great experience in AI, blockchain, technology. I worked as a product owner and project manager for 7 years. Yazan Talis is our chief learning officer. He has a background in EdTech. He was the head of education in Kenyan company. And Tamer Saidin, he's the director of technology that he's really have great experience in project management and development. So I'm open to any questions right now. If you're gonna ask more about UniHands, what we are doing, what is the potential to create partnership with the university in the Arabic world, and the content providers in the Arab world. Thank you.
Ahmed, thank you very much indeed. And I must say congratulations on that phenomenal growth in the first 8 months of your existence. And I'm sure that the focus on Arabic will be very greatly welcomed within the region. If anybody has any questions that they would like to put to Ahmed, could they please put them in the Q&A function now? And perhaps I can ask you one, Ahmed. How big do you see UniHands becoming? Because its growth in 8 months looks to be astonishing, and of course there's so much more to do.
So this growth was surprising. So my business model was challenging for everyone to go decentralized, and we are trying to keep updated this growth from the business and the marketing side. Our business model is unique. Our features it's easy to use. We have a great user experience. Now the Arab world are finding the value of online education and the skills. So we have weekly we have a 4K certification verified from UniHands students. So most likely our growth is high, and we are aiming to go global. So we designed to enrich the Arabic content with partnership with Alura and translating all the content to different languages. We are aiming to go global and enriching our business model as a decentralized. So most likely we are providing features for instructors, universities, where they can publish their knowledge and share their knowledge with zero cost and with a huge traffic. So most likely, I believe UniHands is the future of MOOCs and e-learning in the whole world, according to their decentralized business model. And we are moving everything to be on blockchain infrastructure and purely AI. So we are moving from B2C and B2B to C2C purely.
But thank you for that. We've just had one huge question, but you've only got a minute. Quality assurance. How are you approaching that?
Yes, sure. So we have a team we have a great team that go through the courses and verify the courses. They review the courses the audio quality and the video quality, the sequence of the content and the curriculum of the courses. And we have experts to review the courses in different specific field. So according to our business model, we are a marketplace. We are not a content providers. So most likely we are dealing with universities, content providers. They have their own QA system. So most likely we have a rating. So the final judge in UniHands is the end user itself. So we have course reviewers, we have assessment, we have validation, we have everything. So most likely this question is great, and we have been asking this question a lot of time, like since we started UniHands. So I think in this area where we are providing skills enhancement, and we are trying to share knowledge and gain knowledge platform. So the QA is gonna be varied from instructor to instructor and from community to community.
Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us, and I wish you every success. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, David. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And now we do indeed go to the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research from Egypt. It is both a personal and a professional pleasure to introduce His Excellency Dr. Khaled Abdul Ghaffar. The floor is yours.
Thank you, David. It's always a pleasure to see you, even virtually. It's a pleasure. Allow me at the beginning to gratitude Dr. Professor Amr Salama, the Secretary General of the Association of the Arab Universities, and our esteemed ministers and the university rectors and member states. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to join you today. And I would like to thank the Association of the Arab Universities for giving us this great opportunity to take the peek at the global perspective on higher education. And it's a great pleasure for me and my team to participate in such an important event. Allow me to start with sharing my presentation, and I wish we can all see that. Can we?
Yes.
Can we start sharing the presentation? Is it shared, David?
It's on the screen.
Yes. Perfect. Can you put it full screen for me? Very good. So since we're talking about skills for the future jobs and alignment with this important perspective to our curriculum, I have to share with you the importance of the different generations and the different workforce, starting from generation, which we call it a long time ago, the baby boomers. And now you can look at the dates and see where do you fit in that between 1940 and 1960, or Generation X, or Generation Y, or Z, or even the Alpha generation that we are seeing right now. The problem for educators and academia is that they deal with people or with generations nearly the same. And we noticed that it's completely different. We have to think in a different way. We have to go back and not to judge the future generation the way we had our training and how the way we had our education according to our age. So these days we are talking about even COVIDians, where the last couple of years sometimes they called that we will face the generation that attended the COVID-19 and how this affected our education system through the hybrid education or the online education. And I'm sure that there will be a lot of research that will come out sometime later to evaluate the value of this the disruption that happens because of COVID-19. So when we talk more about the diversity of the workforce all over the globe, we were in a very important position in Egypt, where almost 50% of our age structure is below 25 or 30 years old, which we call it that this is a very strong trend for talent surplus, provided that we can train them, we can teach them, we can prepare them, we make them ready for the future jobs and for the fourth industrial revolution. So you can see with this red arrow that Egypt has very good potential of development when it comes to youth because of the rather young generations that we have. So the future jobs, everybody's talking about that jobs that will disappear in the next 10 years and jobs that will disappear over the 25 years. But I see it as an opportunity, because I'm sure that there is nothing that would say that the robots or the machine will replace the human being, or artificial intelligence will replace the human intelligence. Definitely, there will be an augmented intelligence that still will need the human being as the main core for any job, together with the machine. So how can we prepare the next generations for that important future that we will all foreseeing and waiting for that? So in our educational system in Egypt, we had a lot of challenges, and certainly this challenges relies on the rigidity of the education system since long time ago, and the quality of education, and the inputs and the processes, and also availability of funding, which I'm sure that funding is a quite challenge for different developing countries, as well as the alignment with our national priorities and availability of information to guide student choice and start to change the mentality and the culture of the students, and certainly their parents, about that they have to think about future jobs. They have to think about getting away from the traditional jobs that we all grown up and having them. So the real challenge was the balance and the filling the gap between graduate skills and the labor market requirements, which we see and notice. And we recently had a very important study by the World Bank and clarifying that graduates or the job market needs, or the supply and demand, has to be revisited to start preparing students for the real needs of the market and the real skills needed for the jobs of the future. So that's why we called our strategy in the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research in Egypt, we call it Strategy 4.0, depending on four important pillars. Certainly, we are having the Sustainable Development Goals declared by the United Nations as an important pillar ahead of our mind, together with the Fourth Industrial Revolution and Society 5.0, and certainly Egypt Vision 2030, that brings our focus to have an important knowledge-based economy by 2030, where we see Egypt to be one of the best 30 economies globally, and we start seeing this exponential growth in our economy, although that the COVID-19 a little bit bring things to a slower rate, but even though that we also managed to have a little growth in the last couple of years. So we are moving to that important target quite good. Another pillar, which is access to higher education. We want to have educational good quality and good education institutions in different parts of Egypt with high quality. And we also managed to have international competitiveness to support our quality of the education. As regards to the STI pillar, also we want to have a creative and innovative society to produce science, not just to import science, but to produce science, technology, and knowledge within a comprehensive system. And we want to start this early enough for school kids, and that's where we have an important relation and organization between myself and my colleague who's looking after the Minister of Education and Vocational Education, to starting from early enough to implement and inject the idea of technology, knowledge, and innovation early to the minds and curriculum of young kids, so that when they come up to the tertiary education, they were prepared for such an important disruption. So the real challenge of tomorrow's workforce is to train our graduates how to educate them for the fourth industrial revolution, and how to change and revisit our curriculum in our universities to start getting them to a new program that is relevant to the fourth industrial revolution, and most importantly relevant to the future jobs and relevant to the need of the country and the need of the region. And this needs a lot of effort and a lot of cooperation between faculty, staff, and policymakers in order to support this education system to be relevant to the future. Certainly, we also looked at the 21st century skills, either the foundational literacies or the competencies or the character qualities that we have
We seem to have lost the sound, although we still have the picture. Well, we seem to have lost the minister's sound, although we still have his picture. Could I invite you to put questions to the minister in the Q&A box, and I will await instructions from our technical director as to how we now proceed. It seems that the internet has frozen in Egypt around the minister's office, and attempts are being made to get him back to us. While we're waiting for the minister, let me just tell you a little bit about what's happening at the top of the hour. Our first contributor this afternoon will be Tim Oates, who is Group Director of Assessment, Research and Development at Cambridge University. Tim is going to be sharing the latest insights from a research review, which is highly relevant in both higher education and other sectors, and is having impact on domestic policy discussions. And Tim will be followed by Jeff Majan-Calder, who is the CEO of Coursera. I'm not sure whether they are actually the world's largest provider of open courses, but the latest number I have is that they have some 80 million learners on their system. And then the third speaker in that session will be Jerry Hanley, Dr. Jerry Hanley, Director of Merlot and Skills Commons, and he's going to be talking about building institutional capacity for excellence in online teaching and learning in higher education. Now, that's what we have lined up for you from the top of the hour, but the minister is back with us. We lost you, sir.
When exactly did you lose me?
You had a slide on the screen with 3 channels coming down talking about skills. That was
I'll go back.
The last slide we saw.
I will go back. You're talking about this one? You're talking about this one, David?
Can you put it up on the screen?
It's not on your screen now?
Not yet. By the end of the pandemic, we will be completely used to working online. These issues will be a thing of the past.
Is it on now?
Not yet. It is now, and that is precisely the slide that you left us on.
Okay, perfect. At this slide, I was talking about, but if I want to change, I mean, then. Okay. Yeah, when I stopped here, I was talking, David, about the importance of getting to the 21st century skills. Either we're talking about the foundational literacies and the competencies needed for that for students and the character qualities. So we try to do that in our ICT literacy and scientific literacy and numeracy and other ways of literacy, financial. And we even looked even more to go to a lot of digital and space literacy. So that is something that we want to have, and we were working hard in doing that together with the cognitive skills and non-cognitive skills and the soft skills that we have. Also, what we did, that we have a lot of challenges that we managed to overcome during the last few years, and thanks to our political support that we got from our president, to either just financial support or moral support or even political support, that we happened to overcome our severe challenges that focused on updates. We did a lot of updates on our higher education system and research. We improved the institutions, higher institution ranking in different ranking systems. We also established new higher education institutions together with new path of vocational education, which we call it the technological universities. We also worked hard to diversify our sources of funding, because that was a real challenge, by adding a lot of legislations to invest more in research and innovation, to try to bring out resources other than the governmental official resource. So improving the quality of the education input during the last 7 years was our main focus. And in order to do that, we have to work with our partners, with our friends from the international sector, to different universities, different research centers. We also established a lot of technological colleges that meets, most importantly, the national and the international needs of our technical education. So what I'm trying to show right now is part of the effort that we've done during the last few years. We have 9 public universities working now, and expecting to add 12 more public universities, non-for-profit, within next year. So you can imagine that we managed to work in around 30 to 35 new educational institutions during the COVID time. And that was not easy, both financially and with a great effort of my colleagues. We also finished and opened and launched 6 international branch campus in the new administrative capital, and very proud to announce the technological university path, because this important path was not there before 3 years ago. So we happened to open 3 technological universities, preparing for 6 to 7 new technological universities by September 22. We have 32 private universities now, and we have 10 new private universities in the pipeline, also expected to start operation by next year. Together with 27 governmental universities, free education, adding soon 2 more governmental universities to what we have now, to be having accessible free education in different Egyptian governorates. So this is just the landscape. Just to give you an idea about the digital transformation is another path that we invested around 7 billion Egyptian pounds in that important aspect, so that we can digitalize the campus, digitalize the learning management system and student information system, hospital or university hospital system, and management of patient records. So this also was very important project. And in these new universities and new campuses that we developed, we also stressed on going to new specialties like the cybersecurity, the augmented reality, the big data analytics, the Internet of Things. And so we had this, what we call it, the jobs of the futures in front of our head, so that we can start convincing students, and most importantly, their parents, about that they need to think in a different way, so that they will have to encourage their kids and their family to start thinking about the education that will bring them to a decent job, and certainly a decent salary at the end. New public universities, as I mentioned, in remote areas where we also ask for development in this area, like in Alamein, in Mansoura, in Galala, in the Red Sea, and also in South Sinai, which we call it Salman University. These are huge campuses. Each one of them is like 300 acres with around 60 new programs from the programs of the future, like biophysics, in cybernetics, certainly artificial intelligence and modeling and genomics and data science and data analytics, everything that you can think about in the future. I have to admit that it's not easy to enroll students in that new subjects so far, but it improves year by year. When I evaluated the enrollment of these new subjects last year, this year is much better than last year, because I know that it will take some time to change the mentality and the culture of the students and their parents, to drive them and to encourage them to recruit and to get to these important future subjects. Smart classrooms, also with the new digital transformation project, so that we'll have smart management, smart operation, and smart assessment, everything that goes with the smart university. We try to do that with all the new campuses, and again, having that done and prepared for our old campuses. These are a real picture of this year, students sitting with, as you can see, some social distancing, bringing them back to the face-to-face education, which we also managed to vaccinate around 1.5 million of the university teachers and workers and students, and aiming within the next few weeks to finish all vaccination of university belongers, so that we can ensure safe environment for all students, bringing them back to face-to-face education. Technological university, we also, as I said, we managed to have 3 of them and waiting for 7 more, so we'll have 10 by next year. Going to information technology, autotronics, mechatronics, and a lot of industrial demand-driven programs with oil and gas, with the traffic and transportation, with a lot of disciplines that is very important for the students to get their training during their studying, because they have like 70% training and 70% practical training, together with 30% theoretical. So it's a university of applied science that we will encourage during the next 10 years to have like 30 or even 40 new technological universities in different governments related to industrial zones. Information technology, as I said, these are the students getting trained in state-of-the-art, more or less, technology of the future in different aspects. And we have from the German side, and as well as from Italy, and now we would just signed with the Portuguese University, Nova University, and Ryerson University, a Canadian campus, also waiting to be involved within our Canadian campus. So, and also we have a campus from the United States ready to join. This competition, and this will add to the landscape a lot of quality and a lot of availability for students to choose from. But most importantly than education, which we see it now, is skilling, upskilling, and reskilling. So from what we see in the world, the idea of the graduate is not the way of education, but rather how they update their skills to match with the new technology, with the new economy, which we call it the new economy skills. And we noticed that 65% of Egyptians feel that the job will be seriously affected by the globalization and by the renovation and the industrial revolution that will happen shortly. So that's why we have to start thinking about that. Our record says that 400 million graduates worldwide needs to be work ready very soon. Otherwise, they will lose the opportunity of jobs. Together with workers, around 1 billion worker needs skilling, and 700 million workers needs reskilling. And even at the managerial level, the upskilling of the managerial level will act and will supply and will definitely support the economy. So this is important in terms of $8.5 trillion is expected to be the skill gap if we didn't manage to include skills needed for the future to be part of the curriculum, or even to be an extra curriculum activity to improve and to make our graduates ready for the future of jobs. In order to do that, yesterday we have an important meeting with the Supreme Council of Universities, where we decided to establish Center for Future Competencies and Skills in universities. We call it as CFCS. This Center for Future Competencies and Skills will be responsible of deploying and excelling the skills and competencies needed for different disciplines. Certainly we'll have one standard competencies and skills, but again will be on-demand skills for each discipline, so that graduates, before they graduate, they will have the chance to be equipped enough with all what it needs for the job, not just in Egypt. We don't think about graduates to be employed only in Egypt, but we want to prepare them for the jobs readiness of the region and even globally. Thank you very much. And this is some of the useful links that I used during my presentation. And I really enjoyed to be with you. And it's a great opportunity for me to share with you, David, and with Professor Amr, and with our dear colleagues from the Arab universities, our work and our thoughts during this time. Thank you again. Back to you, David.
You've given us a very comprehensive view of what is happening in Egypt. And I think you may have made some of our participants a little bit envious, because you've talked about reaching out over the region. And we have a question about a regional platform and how other countries might engage with you. And in fact, while I let you just think about that, let me just reflect that I think my last but one visit to Egypt was to your global forum, where you had a huge audience from all around the world. And I believe that you have another edition of that forum coming up soon that you might just want to share with our delegates.
Absolutely, that's a great opportunity. We are having our second version of the World Education Forum that will start on December the 6th. So, and it will talk a lot about future jobs and how do we link academia with the future, and how do we prepare for that important disruption. So I will invite you all to come and visit, because this will be live. Certainly it will be hybrid. If somebody wants to join remotely, we'll do that. But we would love to have you personally to have the thoughts and to exchange back our expertise as it used to be. So I promise, David, that our second version will be as good as the first version, even better. So it's an open invitation for all our listeners.
That's excellent. I'd like to pass now to His Excellency Dr. Amr Salama, who would like to say a few words to you.
يعني اسمح لي David, I'd like to thank His Excellency Dr. Khaled Abdel Ghaffar. I speak in Arabic so that our guests in Arabic كان شكرا جدا يا معالي الوزير على هذه البرزنتيشن، حقيقه يعني حاجه مشرفه وانا سعدت بيها جدا شخصيا يعني، واتمنى ان شاء الله ان احنا يعني دايما نسمع منك الكلام الكويس ده. شكرا جزيلا على وقتك، وشكرا جزيلا على هذا الجهد اللي بذل في اعداد هذه البرزنتيشن، وعلى كل ما تقدمه للتعليم العالي سواء في مصر او على مستوى اتحاد الجامعات العربيه.
اشكرك يا دكتور عمرو. يعني هو الحقيقه يعني سيادتك طبعا استاذنا، وانت يعني لك باع طويل في هذا المجال، واحنا مجرد بنبني على ما سبقنا من خبرات ومن عمل. فكل التحيه لسيادتك وقيادتك للجامعات العربيه اللي احنا جزء منها، واحنا كمان يعني مشاركين مع اغلبيه زمايلنا من خلال مجلس اعلى للجامعات في تعاون دائم ومثمر. فان شاء الله يعني يديم التعاون ده في الفتره القادمه بوجود سيادتك على راس هذه المنظومه. شكرا.
شكرا جزيلا.
You sometimes feel that despite its size and despite the thousands of people that are participating in this event, that when you hear remarks like that, we are still a large family in terms of the education in the region, and that is a very happy situation to work with. Could I just advise our delegates, after adding my personal thanks to you, Minister, that we will be back at the top of the hour with Tim Oates, the Group Director of Assessment and Research and Development, Cambridge University, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Thank you.